And this being natural meditation, we don't do unnatural things like sitting uncomfortably or trying to sit completely immobile for hours at a time or trying to do things with our mind or to our mind that our mind would not naturally want to do. What our mind naturally wants to do, what everyone's mind naturally wants to do, is to find happiness, find peace, which is really another name for the same thing. Find freedom, which is also another name for the same thing. And so what we do is we allow it to sink into freedom, sink into the place of freedom, happiness, peace, which the good news is it's been right here all along. It's been our own nature all along. So it's just a matter of allowing it to be drawn in rather than trying to push our attention, push our mind out somewhere, not trying to push it forward to something like, flogging some poor overworked donkey. It's sinking back into ourselves. And it all happens naturally as long as we let it. So the main thing for that is to let go, or rather, just let me put it this way, to relax our grip, to set aside any preconceptions we might have about meditation or what's supposed to happen or whatever. Just, leave that all outside the door for now. Okay. All right. So let's sit up comfortably and check out the old body and see if maybe the body wants to be twisted to one side and the other. Maybe roll the shoulders forward and backward. Maybe roll the neck a couple times in one direction, a couple times in the other. We're not making a big deal of any of this stuff. Just, you know, whatever. Check out your body. I don't know what your body needs, but you can feel it. I really usually like these days, for what it's worth, pulling my shoulder blades, my scapulas down in back, and then together, and then pushing them toward the sternum. That's kind of breaking things up that way. And then kind of curling the tailbone, arching in the other direction. You could try that a couple of times. To do that, you might want to put your hands palms up on top of your thighs and then pull the elbows back and as if you were trying to, while you keep the hands on top of the thighs, trying to pull the elbows together while you pull the scapulas down and together and forward. Oh, yeah. And then in the other direction. Don't forget to keep breathing. By the way, don't hold your breath. And one more time, if you feel like doing it. So scapulas down together and forward as you pull the elbows toward each other and back. And then curl in the opposite direction. Curl the tailbone. And then straighten up. And just easily allowing the eyes to close. And just noticing what's going on. Just noticing what experiences are arising naturally by themselves. just in a completely casual, easygoing way. Not like, oh, we're making a list, checking it twice, trying to be mindful. Not just, oh, okay, some maybe physical sensations come and go. Maybe sounds come and go. Definitely the sound of this voice comes and goes. Probably thoughts come and go. Perhaps feelings come and go, whether it's feeling of anticipation or happiness or confusion, restlessness, fatigue. We're not caring about what the feelings are or what the thoughts are or the sounds are. We're just noticing that whatever they are, they come and go by themselves. So we play no role in the comings and goings. All right, can you decide what will be the next sound you hear? Evidently not. So we're not in control, we can't predict. We're just here, just hanging out. Just being the innocent, uninvolved experiencer of whatever experiences come and go. Just being the awareness that's aware of whatever experiences come and go. And it's not special awareness. There is no such thing as special awareness. There's only one kind of awareness. It's the same regular, ordinary, everyday awareness that was aware of the experience of eating your supper tonight. That was aware of the emotions you had the last time you had an argument with someone. It's the same awareness that was aware of all the colors and forms and scenes that you saw in the last movie or TV show that you watched. Same awareness. There's only one of them. The same silent thread that runs through every moment of experiencing your whole life. Like open space, open sky, through which different kinds of clouds and wind and rain and rainbows have been coming and going your whole lifetime. So there's nothing for us to do here. Nothing for us to do. We're just resting in the absolutely regular, normal way of experiencing things. Only for once we're really resting in it. For once we're really not trying to change anything. We're not making any choices. For once we're not trying to improve our experience in any way or edit it. For once we're clearly noticing that we are not the thoughts or the feelings or the sensory experiences. We are this open, knowing space, this open space of awareness, this open sky within which all that weather comes and goes. So we're just completely resting in that, resting as that. Resting in our own spacious nature. That being like the sky, being like space, is always completely empty, even when it's full of stuff coming and going. Space never stops being spacious. So we can rest completely into the naturally spacious nature of our own awareness. Not trying to create it, not even trying to see it, just it's always right here. It's always, if you're saying, hey, wait, where is it? It's right here where you're saying that. You're it. Tag, you're it. So right where you are looking for it, just relax back into it. Right here. Always right here. Not trying to concentrate, not trying to control the mind in any way, not trying to have any special kind of experience, not trying to be mindful or vigilant, just resting as you already are. Letting whatever comes come, letting whatever goes go, and relaxing back into the only thing that does not come or go. It's this free, open space of awareness within which all the comings and goings happen on their own. This awareness which you are, this I, this experiencer, please notice whether it has a color. You might be aware of some subtle internal colors. But notice that the awareness that's aware of that, the I that experiences those colors, you say, well, I see yellow or I see purple. The I that sees yellow or purple is not yellow or purple. It just is. You can notice whether this awareness has a sound. Again, you may be aware of external sounds or aware of subtle internal sounds or mental sounds. But the awareness that's aware of those sounds is silent, has no sound. Notice whether this awareness notice whether you can find a boundary to it, a border. Again, any border, any sense of a boundary you can find is something you're aware of. That's within the awareness. So this awareness is actually boundless. Boundless doesn't mean great big or small small. It means it has nothing to do with size or shape or age or gender or anything else. Just pure isness, awareness, same thing. But notice that there's something about it that attracts us. We like resting in it because it's freedom, it's peace, it's home. Just the I resting in I, resting as I. Usually it's as if we're out wandering, lost in all the outer experiences. For once the experiencer comes home and rests in its own nature. And if thoughts are going on, fine, doesn't matter. Feelings, sounds, anything, doesn't matter. Sensations, doesn't matter. We're clear that we experience them all within this space of awareness, within this I. So they don't contradict it, they don't distract from it. Anything we're aware of just reminds us that we're aware. And once again, we relax back into that awareness. That's simple. Now keep the eyes closed and take a couple of minutes to gently bring the body back to a more active state. And start shifting around in the seat, maybe stretching a little. It's like waking up from a nap. Might feel like stretching your limbs, maybe rubbing your face a little or your scalp or your hands, get the blood going again. And then when you feel ready, you can slowly open the eyes. Take all the time that the body wants. Okay, how's everyone doing? Everybody good? Any questions about the process or the experience of meditation itself before we go on to other things? Ebony, you got the simplicity of what we're doing?
I did.
Good. Good. And how are you doing right now?
I feel more grounded, more connected, and curious about how I carry that throughout my day when I'm more active or at work or doing things of the sort.
Right. Yeah. Good, good, good. So two excellent things. The one excellent thing is you got the simplicity of what we're doing. Even to say doing is kind of saying too much. You know, it's really more just being, just being. And and you notice how you know, having read one of my books and now you know the experience of doing some kind of sense of, oh right, this is what the book was talking about.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
good,
definitely.
good, good, good. So the main thing is you got the simplicity, you got the effortlessness, and you feel something nice, some groundedness uh, as a result. Now, one important thing to know is that as you continue to practice, some days afterward you might say, oh, I feel more grounded. Some days you might feel, oh, I feel more energetic. Some days you might feel, I'm not sure if I feel anything at all, and that's all fine. It's a constantly changing thing. So don't feel that, oh, wait a minute, the correct experience was how it was 3 meditations back. How do I get back there? Because the moment you do that, you're starting to inject effort into the process, and then you've lost the whole basis of it. And even if that happens, then you just come back here, you walk through it with us again, you go, oh yeah, right,
Yeah.
effortlessness. Good, good, good. So, your other question, how do I continue this through the day? Okay. That's the great question. Having tasted it once, boy, we don't want to lose that, right? We yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly the right question to be asking. Because at first, it's like it's either or. Okay, we're out here in the world of activity, responsibilities, interaction. It's interesting, it's entertaining, it's challenging, right? Sometimes it's a lot of fun, sometimes not so much fun, right? So that's the one world. That's the world of diversity, the world of multiplicity, the finite, right? And then we settle back into here where, oh, this is very different. It's there's not multiplicity. There's unity, right? There's not all this the colors and the sounds and it's no color, no sound, no nothing. Now the other stuff is still there in the background. We don't have to annihilate it. And that's a great discovery right there. Did you notice that? That even as thoughts vaguely continued in the background, we're resting in the silence.
Yes, but even when I felt like I was onto something, I caught myself being like, "That's the thought that I'm thinking that I
Right.
am there." So that I can relate to that.
Right.
There's still even that background.
Yeah, that's a very good insight. The thought that now I'm there, that's not there, that's a thought, right? But it's also possible to be having that thought because you're there, right? Right? That can be an accurate recognition. And in fact, it is because, in fact, we're always there. Where else can we be? Where else could when do we ever stop being? Right? When do we ever stop being aware? Are you aware now? Right? It's a yes or
Right.
no. It's a yes or no question, and
Yeah.
actually, it's a yes or yes question. Right? And does and not just Ebony, everyone right now. Okay, are you aware? Anyone not aware? Okay, you're aware, right? And does that awareness have a color? Does that awareness have a boundary? See if you can find it. Right? Right. So awareness is boundless. You're experiencing boundless awareness right now. You're in boundless awareness right now. You can never not be here. But what happens to most of us, most of the time, is that we get caught up in all the shiny objects here in the foreground, here in the world of multiplicity, the relative, the finite. We get caught up in the movie and we miss the boundless awareness that's in the background. It's like the screen that underlies the movie. Without the screen, there could be no movie. It's the basis of the movie. But we lose it in the movie. We get caught up in the play. It's a very enticing movie, right? Sometimes it's a comedy, sometimes it's a horror film, but either way, we can get equally caught up in it, right? So this very significant experience, it's such a simple thing, but you've reported it very clearly, which is, okay, I'm resting to some degree consciously in that background of silence, yet I'm aware even vaguely of the thoughts and sensations, whatever, appear. Now, right? That really is the answer to your question. You've experienced that you can have both at the same time. Only more and more completely so, more and more, like the old Polaroids, you pulled them out of the camera, or they came spitting out of the camera, and then at first it looks like there's nothing there, and then it starts to picture starts to develop. It's like that. This awareness of awareness, this awareness of the boundlessness of our own nature that's been kind of lost in the background, more and more the picture develops, more and more we experience it clearly. If we look for it, it's like, well, I'm trying to see it. Well, you can't see it because it has no color or shape, but it's where you've been seeing from every moment of your life, right? You can't hear it. It's where we've been hearing from every moment of our life. We can't wrap thoughts around it or feelings around it, but it's where we've been thinking and feeling from every moment of our life. So it's the source of all that, but we've been missing the source. So more and more the source, and I keep pointing back here, it's not literally, it's not physically behind us, but it's a funny thing. I think some of this has to do with the way we're built. We're physiologically, our eyes are in the front, and our feet face forward. If we were, certain kinds of fish, we'd have an eye on one side, or a horse, the eyes are more on the side. But we're forward oriented. So, ever since we were, whatever, little primate swinging in the trees, oh, there's the ripe fruit, we go forward toward it. There's the goal. Which is great. That has to happen. Otherwise, we couldn't eat. But there's a sense of everything. Oh, this goal, this getting this degree, this getting to the movie, getting this alleged source of happiness. We keep moving. Spatially, we think of it as going forward towards it. So kind of to cancel that out, being caught, because then when we start hearing about, meditation and enlightenment, we still think of it, or even without thinking, just almost more neurologically, because of the way we're wired to go after things. It's like, this is the ultimate thing to go forward to. That enlightenment, this boundless awareness, is the ultimate thing to go forward to, the one last goal that I'm going to drive to. But all the time, it's the garage we've been parked in. Right. So there is a sense we can, even when you get on an airplane, remember getting on airplanes, and and they give you the safety spiel at the beginning, and how to buckle your seatbelt. And every time my wife and I get on a plane, when they get to this part where they demonstrate how to, we always remember there was this cartoon in the New Yorker once. Okay, and it shows the people on the plane, and they're all like, as usual, the flight attendant is standing in the aisle giving the thing, and she's got the belt. She's showing how the seat belt works, and everyone's ignoring her. They're reading their books, or they're looking at their iPads or their phones. They're lost on their music, except one guy is looking at her in amazement, and he's thinking in his thought bubble, it says, "Sweet mother of God, so that's how a seatbelt works." Where was I going from here? Oh, yes. So what they always say at the end of the safety spiel is, so sit back, relax, and enjoy your flight, right? Sit back. So they know that. There's a thing about back here. So
Yeah.
So sometimes, even having had this, lovely experience that you've had of the simplicity of natural meditation, sometimes there's a tendency we'll get caught up in something. Some cluster of thoughts becomes very gripping, or some emotion, or just somehow, or we're just distracted, something that came up during the day, and we keep finding ourselves caught up in it. So before you realize you're caught up, of course, you can't do anything because you're caught up. So you don't realize it. when we realize that we're caught up in this thing, whatever it is, don't try to push it away. Don't try to resolve it. Don't try to get rid of it. Just relax your grip on it and relax back into yourself again, so to speak. Relax back into the self again and again. Just relax back and simple, simple. So what happens is, the answer to your question, keep practicing every day, ideally every day. Okay. And more, that awareness of this boundless awareness more and more comes to pervade daily life. More and more, we're still doing the same stuff. From the outside, we look the same, except nicer. That really does happen. Really does happen. I've told this story before of when I first started doing this stuff, and I started going on these weekend retreats. And after I came home from the fourth or fifth of these weekend retreats, and on a retreat, you do more meditation, like hours a day. So you're really getting cooked and really kind of accelerating this process of integrating. So I came home from the fourth or fifth of these weekend retreats, and my girlfriend at the time said, every time you come home from one of these, you're a little nicer. I said, I am? Okay, I'll take that. And it's interesting because, especially if you're in a relationship and sometimes, you find yourself, God, how did I get caught up in that thing again? How did I get caught up in that pattern of reactivity? And, I love my partner so much and I got caught up in this anger thing or in this, insensitivity thing or so forth, right? With all our good intentions and all our understanding, it happens anyway because, because of stress we're carrying around, internalized stress. Or why do I keep smoking these cigarettes? Or why do I keep engaging in this behavior that, right? But the more we just sit and marinate in this space of boundlessness, the more the stresses get a chance to dissolve, and they can be very deep rooted. And as the stresses dissolve, that other stuff tends to fall away. I used to smoke 2 packs a day, and I never quit. It fell away. So that's why we get nicer. So from the outside, we look about the same, but maybe nicer. Maybe, people who are around us might at some point say, God, I can't remember the last time I saw you depressed, right? Things like that, right? Or, gee, you really handled that difficult situation smoothly. You really looked very centered and grounded through that whole thing, and then you go, I did? Okay. Like that. And, after some time, more and more, these things that you've read about in books, realization and enlightenment and living in the silence, which can sound very kind of glorious, but kind of abstract, and kind of more and more you realize, oh, it's right here. It's been right here all along. How did I miss it? It's the most ordinary thing in the world because it's my own nature. But it's also what I've been looking for every moment,
Yeah.
Good. So glad to have you with us, Ebony. It's great.
I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah. Good. Anything else tonight? Yeah. Alex.
Yeah, I just want, by the way, Ebony, welcome. I'm up the road in Sammamish, Washington, near east side of Seattle. So, hello, Washington.
Okay.
All right, welcome.
Washington State in the house.
Yeah. Go Seahawks. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to make a small comment about something that happened to me today. I think this stuff is working, Dean. Today I retired from my company.
Wow.
And thank you. And as I was driving to work to pick up my stuff.
Retired? What are you, like 23 years old?
I'm 10 years younger than you, I think, Dean.
Get out.
I I was in high school.
I
when
want to.
took-
I got to do what you're doing, whatever that is.
I hope to look as good as you. Based on what you told me about when you were a teacher,
You've done the math.
yeah, I've done the math. I figured it out.
Uh-huh.
72 is when I 73 is when I took my first TM class, TM class, and I was in high school then. And but again,
1973. Okay.
on and off. But anyway, what happened today was on the way to work to pick up my stuff. Pardon me? Yeah, I got stopped by
baby.
Thank you. I got
Oh,
stopped
no.
by a cop.
Mhm.
He saw me fooling around with my phone in my car because my phone fell off the mount. And
Mhm.
as I catch it, that's when he sees me with this phone in my hand. And then anyway, he stops me, right? And he says, you're fiddling around with the phone. I said, but sir, I said, yeah, I was, because I was catching it falling off this thing. I showed him how it was wobbly and stuff. And he understood, but he still said, license and registration, please. Oh man. So I hand it to him. He goes back to his car. So I'm sitting there.
And excuse me, was this the day of your retirement?
That's today. That's today on my retirement day. Right? So I'm sitting there, and what a crappy way to have a retirement, right?
Uh-huh.
And then as I'm sitting there, all these thoughts are going through my head about my insurance rates, because I had a ticket like a year and a half ago, but it got deferred, which means it stays
Right.
off my record. But this one would not be it would be on my record. So I'm thinking about ruminating about, oh my gosh, and all the catastrophizing.
Mhm.
I said, wait a second, what did Dean teach you? I said, hey, don't do the deep breathing. Don't try to focus on your breath. It's not going to work, right? Because I know it ain't, and it doesn't work, believe me. So I said, okay, I'm just going to let these emotions go through me. I'm just not going to add that second arrow of suffering, by ruminating on it.
Right.
And I started calming down for some reason. I said, this is really working. And I started even laughing in the car. I said, this is sort of stupid, of all the days to retire, I get a ticket, right? Anyway, and so I really calmed down. By the time the guy came back, he said, okay, he let me off on a warning, thank God,
Yeah.
and said, okay, but it wasn't that I even felt that relief. It was like, oh, okay. It was like, great,
Yeah.
And I moved on, and I just realized, I said, damn, this thing's really working.
Yeah.
This stuff does carry over. So,
Yeah.
and it also led me to ask the question because I read a lot about meditation in the news on research and all that, because I'm very interested in it. And I hear about people always saying how meditation is hard, it's difficult, it sounds
Yeah.
easier than it sounds, blah, blah, blah. And I continue to wonder why is most meditation as perceived, at least in the Western media, perceived as something effortful, requiring people to buy apps and all this other stuff and do all this other stuff, to basically sounds like more like distraction rather than really dealing with what's going on.
Mhm.
And so I'm just curious why isn't the approach that you teach, which I understand is also taught in other traditions, but as an advanced technique, why isn't that more prevalent in the popular press? And people always say, scared away of meditation for the very same reasons that you pointed out in Natural Meditation and Fearless, about why people have this misconception or this of meditation as being something so hard and difficult that no one wants to bother doing it.
Right. Right. Yeah, I mean, what do we have here? A dozen or so people joining us tonight. They should be breaking the internet to get into these sessions. They should be requiring me to get onto the next tier of my Zoom account to accommodate all the people. You're right. You're right. First, let me go back to your first thing though. I love that. I love that. And this is the thing, and I say this all the time. We can go along and go, is this thing working? I don't know, but it doesn't hurt, doesn't cost me anything. I'll sit down and do it. And then every once in a while, something happens that puts it to the test. You have you have a challenging thing come up. You have, and then you go, oh yeah, gee, I was smooth through that thing. Right.
Can I say something? It's this week. It was funny. I went to pick up my medication.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was on Sunday, and they had this guy that works there, and he's slow, very slow. And I'm in the car. There's nobody in front of me, but there's people in back of me, and I'm worried about the people in back of me having to wait because I had everything, done, and I gave it to the guy. And I'm going, boy, and I start boy, this guy is so damn slow, blah, 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 blah. The same thing that you said about standing on a line in the post office. Okay.
Mhm.
It's the same thing. And then I caught myself. I said, wait a minute, this guy's going to make me go into meditation now because I'm losing it. So I said, I better calm down. So I did.
Yeah.
So I guess I acknowledged the fact that I was losing it,
Mhm.
So this is
Yeah.
good.
That's step
Yeah.
one. Step one is acknowledging, because, and even right there,
Right.
the fact, Irene, the fact that you were able to acknowledge, to see the situation, to see that you were being
Right.
caught up in that, means you were not totally caught up in it anymore.
No,
Right.
like kind of
Y-
like
y-
smooth out.
Yeah, there was a
Okay.
part of enough of a part of you outside being caught up to see that and to see, okay, and we can use things as cues, I mean, Alex, we can if it works for us, if it seems natural for us, you can use the breath. We can use some of these things that we do, singing descending fifths. Ebony, that's in the chapter on finding your fearless voice, right? Singing descending fifths. We can use any of these things, or we can just more and more. We don't have to use anything. More and more, we just just fall back into myself. Just more and more. Right here. Right, more.
I could have done
more.
the descending fifths in front of the cop, but then he probably would arrest me for a DUI or something.
Right.
I don't know, but
Right.
it would be great.
Yeah, but actually, if you've done some descending fifths out loud, then when things happen, you can do them mentally,
Right. Right.
right?
Yeah.
But again, the best is to not have to do anything at all. The best is to just be. All the practices, all the pathways, all the tchotchkes that I've got on my altar here, all the mantras, all that, they're great, and they're all provisional. They're all stuff that you use as long as you need it. When you don't need it anymore, then you don't use it. Or if you just enjoy it, I like having tchotchkes on my altar.
Yeah.
I like singing. I like whipping out my ukulele and singing mantras, right? I like doing descending fifths in the shower in the morning. So I do. We're free. We can do anything. Okay. So let me get back with Alex. Your other
the
question
ticket.
here. What was your other question?
The question was, why is most
Oh,
a lot of
yes.
methods are
Why is it
effortful?
so difficult?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. I think there's a whole cluster of reasons. I mean, it's really a good question because if you've really experienced this, I mean, it's so beautiful to have someone like Ebony join us tonight for the first time, and you just so clearly have got it. And it's so, and when you've meditated like this, all these years that I taught, I was, a school teacher. I was an English teacher at the Pingree School in New Jersey. And, I taught meditation as well and integrated meditation into all my classes at this very traditional prep school. I mean, we had the governor's kids and all these, kids of the corporate heads and so forth. And I'm this like subversive hippie in there teaching all the kids of the movers and shakers to meditate. And, and it was great taking, 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds and who had not read all the stuff, Alex, that you've read. So they didn't know that meditation's supposed to be hard, right? And they would all take to it. Interestingly, the ones who sometimes took a little longer to take to it were the valedictorians. The ones who always got it right away were the jocks. Right? Can you see that? Because the valedictorians do have a tendency to, try to process everything through thinking.
beginner's
Right.
mind type of thing, right?
Say it again?
Beginner's mind type of
Whereas the
receptivity.
jocks are much more used to just approaching things, in a more kind of straightforward, simple, visceral way, somatic way. It's just, a body thing. The body settles down. Fine. Right. But the point is, the kids all got it. And then in something we'd read, it might come up about, especially this class that I taught called Literature of Enlightenment, where we would read, Zen stories, and we would read the Gospel of Thomas, and we'd also read, like, literature. We'd read some, a book by J.D. Salinger, and we'd read Kerouac and so forth. Great, really great fun. And they would come across something about meditation supposedly being difficult. Yeah. And they go, what are they talking about? Why would anyone ever think that? It would just seem so obvious, seem so self-evident to them that meditation, of course, it's a natural, effortless thing, right? So, why does that knowledge get lost? I started to say, I think there's a cluster of reasons. One is that it's so simple. It's so simple that any change that happens, and all things tend to change over time, right? Mm-hmm. A shoreline, the configuration of a shoreline is going to change over time. A relationship between two people is going to change over time. So a teaching is going to change over time. So you go back to the teachings from, the words of the great Dharma teachers, the great Enlightenment teachers. You go back to Shankaracharya, you go back to Al-Halaj, you go back to Lao Tzu, you go back to Jesus, you go back to the Buddha. And this is, as far as I can see, this is what they're teaching. They're teaching this naturalness. Right? The kingdom of heaven is within you. Right? Is within you. That's exactly what we were saying before. It's already, it's already right here. Not the kingdom of heaven might be within you someday. Not the kingdom of heaven can be gotten within you if you're good enough or work hard enough. It is within you. Right? But all things tend to change over time. And since this is ultimate simplicity, the only direction it can change in is to get more complex. Is to people to start to make it less simple. And especially sometimes in cultures where the idea became, and a lot of it's understandable for economic reasons, the fact and reasons of economics and technology. We live in this historically very unusual situation where we're householders, we're active in the world, we have occupations, we raise families, and we have a serious, regular meditative practice. Historically, that's very unusual. Usually, it's been, if you were living in the world, you were living in a house full of kids. You had to have enough kids to take care of you when you got old because there's no Social Security, and you need kids to help go, work the South 40 and milk the cows and all of that. If you were a woman, you were raising babies and running the household, and that was all the bandwidth you had pretty much. So pretty much spirituality or meditation, whatever we want to call it, was left to people who, renounced all that and went to the monastery or went to the convent. Now there they had a lot of time on their hands. They had a lot of time to get in trouble. A lot of time to go, okay, we're doing this thing. This is very simple. This is nice. What else? What next? Right?
Too simple.
So I think that's the one thing, and I think that's the most basic thing. Another thing that happens is that people would see enlightened people, or they would read in the texts descriptions of enlightened people, which is a description of the effect, right, the result of the practice, and they would mix up the result with the method.
Hmm.
Right? In other words, they'd see, or you read in these scriptures, right? You can read this in the
Yeah.
Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, exactly.
What is the nature of the realized man? Oh, the realized man is unmoved in loss and gain, fame and shame, right? And you go, oh, okay, I want to be a realized man, so I've got to be unmoved in loss and gain. No matter, no, I just lost a bunch of money in the stock market. No, I just gained, all right, but I can't be moved, right? That's completely backwards.
See.
And that leads to this artificiality, right? The mind of, right, this from the Bhagavad Gita, the mind of the enlightened meditator is like a candle flame in a windless place.
Right, right.
Okay, I got to hold my mind like a candle flame in a windless place.
That's exactly what I read the Gita, and I read that, and I thought I had the same impression
Yeah,
that these were the efforts that you needed to get to that state rather than
Right.
being the fruits of that.
right.
And that's exactly my misinterpretation as well when I read that.
Right. Well, you're in good company, or at least you're in multitudinous company. You and millions of other people over thousands of years. Yeah, it's it's textbook stuff. It's a textbook confusion. So that would be a second reason. And then the third reason is the subtlest, but maybe the most powerful, which is we all want enlightenment. That's really all anyone wants, because, right, when we realize what enlightenment is, it is just this sinking back into ourself. It's home. We all just want this happiness. We all want this, right? We all want to be free from the alleged boundaries of the alleged separate self that we walk around thinking we are, right? We walk around thinking, okay, I'm this thing called Alex, and it's, so many inches tall and weighs, and it's so many years old. I'm still convinced you're 23, by the way, Alex. Right?
Blame it on Zoom. Blame it on Zoom.
You
lighting.
got that Zoom improve my appearance slider pushed all the way to the right, right? The digital Botox. So, we're convinced we are a separate self, right? Which is like being convinced that you're a wave that exists separate from any ocean, which of course is an impossibility, right? And once we're convinced of that, which is what almost everyone is walking around convinced of most of the time, with occasional exceptions. You listen to some beautiful piece of music and you sink into it, and you just transcend listening to, to whatever, listening to, oh my God, the other day I was listening to the Dvorak Ninth Symphony, the New World Symphony, with this beautiful English horn solo, which particularly resonates for me because my dad played the oboe and the English horn. And this is like the greatest English horn solo in the Western classical literature. Look this up. Dvorak, New World Symphony, second movement. It's just sublime. And you just listen to it and you're gone, right? Or, you're looking at Van Gogh's Sunflowers or right, Monet's Water Lilies, and you're just you're gone. You're gone. It could be. I'm sorry. Someone trying to say something?
Yeah, no, that's me. I'm an artist. You're in there, and Van Gogh's,
Yeah.
paintings. You're in
Yeah.
when you look into a painting,
Yeah. Yeah. And you.
or even Hieronymus Bosch. When you look in there, you get lost.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. You get now. Notice how you said that, Irene. You get lost. Now, the you that gets lost is the you that we think we are, is the separate self, with the bundle of thoughts, the bundle of ego zipped into this bag of skin, that thing, because the you that you are doesn't get lost. That you gets found. That you you sink back. Okay, I'm just going to go with this for a while now, Irene. Okay, so the you that you are, which is just pure awareness, you sink back into that. That becomes more vivid, comes more into the foreground. Okay.
Right.
But aside from occasional moments like that, or it might happen, just looking into the eyes of one that you love, and you just both kind of go whoosh together, right?
Mhm.
And it might be your spouse or your partner or your child or your dog, anything, or the
Oh,
ocean,
my cat,
anything. Yeah, your cat, anything. Um,
my Siamese.
so, but aside from, for most people, it's occasional moments like that. But most of the time we walk around and we go, okay, now I'm back to my quote unquote self, right? Now, what happens in meditation is we keep melting back out of this supposed separate self, melting back out of this ego, right? And I'm not talking about egotism, arrogance. I'm talking about ego, just the sense of being a separate self. Egotism is not the same as arrogance. It's the prerequisite for arrogance, right? To think, oh, I'm the really special separate self. First, you have to think you're a separate self. So we don't have to get into arrogance here. So we melt in meditation. We melt back from ego, from a sense of being separate, from a sense of being a wave into being the ocean. Okay, that's, as I said a little while ago, that's what we all want. That's really what we're all trying to go toward every moment. At the same time, it's what we're all resisting every moment.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we'd all be awake now. There's also a resistance. There's also a hanging on to the small, separate, alleged identity. Because when we start to lose that, or lose the identification with it, it can feel like, to us, in a certain way, it feels like we're dying.
Mm.
Which in fact we are. We are dying we're dying out of the illusion of being this small, separate, limited thing which is doomed to suffer. Right? Because as
Right.
long as you're separate, as long as you're limited, you're going to bang up against other boundaries and you're going to suffer. And this thing, also this entity, has to die someday, right?
Right.
Really die. But we die out of that. So it's in a sense, it's like, your molecules falling apart. It's kind of like everything's flying apart. It's like the Wicked Witch of the West. I'm melting. Right?
Right.
Now, all of the villains, I'm not sure about all, but many at least of the villains in movies, in Bible stories, all that, they're all embodiments of the ego. Right? Try going back to The Wizard of Oz and Hamlet and all that. Look at Claudius or look at Herod in the Bible, all these villains, and just read ego, and then the stories make perfect sense. And then the hero,
Right.
Whether it's Jesus or Dorothy, whatever, as the true self, and the story, they're all stories of enlightenment.
Right.
So when the ego starts to feel, oh, I'm melting, because it doesn't want that to happen. The ego is fighting for its life. The ego is fighting for its life. And so the ego says, you don't want to meditate. Right? That's a way of fighting for its life, fighting because it doesn't want to melt. Or the ego says, yeah, go ahead and meditate. Right? Actually, yeah, let's become really good hardcore commandos of meditation. We're going to really sit hard. We're going to concentrate real hard. We're going to find, not these, these pansy ass teachers like Dean who tell you that it's easy, right? We're going to find the hardcore teachers and get serious about this. And what it is it's all a way of distracting yourself from dying out of the false self into the true self. It's a way of preventing that quote unquote death.
Mhm.
Yeah, just like St. Francis'
Yes.
prayer, I
Yeah.
think you said in dying to self, you find eternal life. I think that's near the end of it.
Yeah.
Something to that effect. Now it makes more sense.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. More and more, all that stuff will make sense to you as you come to experience it. You go, oh, right, 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 right. Now, um, when people, sometimes people, in this case, what we're doing is mostly gradually, gently finding ourselves dying out of or melting out of the illusory small self into what we truly are.
Mhm.
Occasionally, people will have an experience of just very suddenly being put into a very profound um, experience of that, and sometimes they'll panic.
Mm.
Okay. Famously, that can happen when people take certain substances, take psychedelics, right?
Right.
And this is why, in what was it, 1966, 67, thereabouts, when suddenly there were, a bunch of people in the U.S. Taking psychedelics, taking LSD and other psychedelics, and go, whoa, how do I handle this? And right then, and Irene, I know you're a big Beatle fan. This is when the Beatles released which John Lennon song?
You see in the sky with diamonds.
Well, that too, but the one that's really on point
Well,
here is "Tomorrow Never Knows," right?
oh, okay.
Tomorrow never knows. Turn
Yeah.
off your mind, relax, and float downstream. It is
Yeah.
not. It is.
Yes, it's just like so, you know,
Yep.
so easy.
Yeah. Yeah. So turn
But
off.
I think I think that gives the negative impression that um, the meditation is difficult. I think that when I think of meditation, I think of that time in history.
Yeah.
Okay, with all the yogis, and you had to twist yourself into a pretzel or whatever, and they show all these poses and stuff.
Yeah.
I said, gee, I could never do that. And then the Beatles, they got high and then they meditated. I said, oh, well, yeah, I guess I have to get high,
Right.
and I didn't want to do that. So I never got into meditation,
Right.
although
Now,
I probably could have.
right. Okay. So a lot of things came along in that era, Irene, including,
Right.
and
I know.
there were people then doing a lot of difficult yoga poses and difficult meditation, and there's people doing that now. There's effortless
Oh.
meditation now. There was effortless meditation then. Your pals, the Beatles, actually, within a year or two of doing Tomorrow Never Knows. Let me just talk for a minute, and I'm running out of time here. So let me just talk for a bit. So when the Beatles, I find this interesting, especially having been in that era, that they actually adapted. That's the words are almost straight out of a book by Tim Leary, Richard Alpert, and Ralph Metzner called The Psychedelic Experience. And that was almost directly out of the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which was a manual for dying. The Tibetan Book of the Dead is the words in the Tibetan tradition that you say to a person or recite to a person to help guide them into gently letting go as they're physically dying and just melting into isness. Okay.
That's
So
nice.
I'm sorry.
That's nice.
Yeah. Okay. Irene, I'm going to mute you now so I can just keep, because there's a little bit of a lag here and it's making this a little difficult. So what Leary and Alpert and Metzner realized was that the instructions there in the Tibetan Book of the Dead work perfectly for when people were taking psychedelics and very suddenly finding themselves melting out of the small self, or having an experience something like that, at least a reasonable, some kind of near facsimile of it, and for guiding them into just gently, it's okay. You're not dying in some cataclysmic sense. It's okay. Just go with it, relax, float downstream. Now, again, a year or two later, the Beatles were in India with Maharishi, finding out, okay, you don't have to take substances at all to do this, and meditation can be easy. But I know people who've been working hard at their meditation, working hard at their spiritual life for years now, for decades, and that's a way of fending it off. It's a way of pushing it away. It's a way of saying, oh, I know people who they're very modest. Oh, well, I just, awakening that's so far away, and I'm so small. And in a way, that's, it's another way of putting it off. It's another way of, a couple of us here were on this online retreat. What is it now? 2 weeks ago with Rupert Spira, one of my very favorite teachers. And he said something very interesting. He talked about blasphemy. And his definition of blasphemy is saying that you're not God. Saying that you're not God is blasphemy, right? Because to say, right, in other words, that this wave, this Dean wave, is not all ocean, right? This Dean wave is not just made out of the infinite, made out of God, is to put a limitation on God, right? Is to say, okay, maybe that ocean is everything, but it stops here. It's not me, right? Right? So to say I am God doesn't mean, oh, I'm the ruler of the universe. I'm the boss. I'm the boss of you and everyone else. It means that every wave is nothing but ocean. It means that every supposedly small, little, cramped self is nothing but this boundlessness of being, nothing but this boundlessness of awareness, this boundless freedom, which just keeps arising. Over here is this wave, this Dean wave. So interesting to be looking at these, little tiles here on my screen. Over here, you're right, it's all the same one screen, but over here the screen takes the form of the appearance of Dean, and over here it takes the appearance of the form of Alex, and over here it takes the appearance of the form of Irene, but it's all the one screen. It's all the one screen. And more we're walking around, as we were saying this before to Ebony, we're walking around experiencing that freedom of the screen all the time, even while we continue to play our part as Dean, Alex, whoever we allegedly are. But here's the thing about the screen, the ocean, the boundless sky, is it has no problems. It doesn't suffer, right? The people in the movie have problems. That's what makes it a movie, right? That's what this person has. The boy meets girl, boy loses girl, right? Then they have to go through all these challenges, and at the end they get together and everything's fine. Or at the end, Romeo takes the, and Juliet, everyone dies. One way or another, they have problems, but the screen never has problems. Right? You can have the big fire in the movie, right? The burning of Atlanta in Gone with the Wind, but the screen doesn't catch fire. You can have a beautiful waterfall in the movie, the screen doesn't get wet, right? So what we truly are, this beingness, this isness, this awareness, is not touched by anything. It does not suffer. And more, that which does not suffer, that we more and more discover that is us. That is us. This field of infinite okayness. If infinite okayness is what we are. And then, up here in front, there's this little piece of us, this little wave of Dean that, still has to work through stuff, but but that's fine. That's up here on the surface. Okay. Yeah, Kathy. I have to make this quick because it's
I
almost
know,
time to
it's
adjourn
late,
here.
but when you just said the definition of blasphemy, it made me
Mhm.
think of this thing I heard the other day. It's the prophets from the Old Testament, okay? And they said this sentence, this question. They're like, I guess they're speaking to us.
Mm-hmm.
Who are we that you should keep us in mind? And that really struck me. Like, in other words, the prophets are saying, don't think about us, you are.
Hmm.
Does that sort of jive with what you were just saying? Who
Yeah,
are
take a listen to I've been doing this Sunday Poetry of Enlightenment series, and the last couple of Sundays we did a couple of the Psalms.
Oh, okay.
And actually, I haven't posted the third one. I'll do that right after this. I'll post the third one, and they're all kind of in that neighborhood, and particularly this third one. It's Psalm, I forget what number it is, but all in the very much dealing with this relationship in those Old Testament terms, in terms of the prophets, in terms of. So yeah, take a listen to that, and I think that'll give a better answer to your question. So may all beings swiftly experience what they are, realize what they are. May all beings swiftly realize their true nature of boundless okayness. And in simple terms, may all beings be happy, and thus may peace prevail everywhere. And the traditional Sanskrit language for that wish, Loka samastaha sukhino bhavantu. Loka, really sending that wish out to all beings. Samastaha sukhino bhavantu. Loka, in spite of their best efforts to resist it. Samastaha sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, everyone. Thanks so much. So good to see you.
Thank you.
So
Thank
good,
you.
so good to
Dean.
be. So good to be with you.
Thanks, Dean.
You bet. Okay.
Awesome.
Enjoy being.